He's here. God, help me. He's come to kill me.
Ryse, Son of Rome is a game in which every single aspect attempts to be epic. The story is preposterous and it burns through ideas at a furious rate. Now, not everything in it works, but you can at least say it's trying. Because of this, it's hard not to have a grudging admiration for Ryse, even if that sentiment is tinged with a sense of disappointment.
I've heard rumours there is great unrest in Rome.
Ryse is set in ancient Rome, but it has neither historical context nor accuracy. Rather, its plot is a pastiche of disparate sword and sandal elements, centering on Marius, a Roman soldier who joins the legion invading Britain after barbarians murder his family. You can expect battles, gods, a wicker man, antler-wearing psychos, and of course, elephants. A surprising number of elephants. There's a frayed thread of continuity between these elements, but Ryse's plot can only be enjoyed if you leave your brain at the door. Any student of the classics, however, will end up weeping in the shower. So, Ryse's plot is daft, but it's not the game's deal breaker. Instead, the biggest problem is with its mechanics.
Is there something troubling you, Father?
We will talk in good time.
Crytek has attempted to implement a combat setup similar to Batman Arkham City, in which the player controls a bloke wielding a sword and shield. One button is sword swipe, one button is shield bash, and the remaining two face buttons activate a counter and a dodge roll. If the player manages to maintain a sustained attack on an enemy, a sigil will appear above their head, at which point the player can pull the right trigger and this activates a QTE execution. What's missing from all this is a crucial sense of rhythm. The player usually has to counter in the middle of a sustained attack, and initially it's hard to read the attack animations and time a counter properly. We say initially because after the first couple of fights you realise that you can counter at any point you like, even if Marius is in mid-swing in an attack. There are certain enemies where you have to perfectly time your counter, but they'll flash red when they begin their attack and their final blow slows a little, so they're easier to read. The other issue is the fact that the controls aren't exactly deep. You can't spam the same attack, enemies will immediately dodge the third blow of whichever attack you're using if you don't mix things up a bit, but there's nothing approaching the depth of hack and slash stalwarts like God of War or Devil May Cry. It doesn't help that the player is pitted against a series of identikit enemies that are occasionally skinned differently, but basically have the same attacks. There's the axe wielder, the sword and shield wielder, the dual sword wielder, the dual club fighter, and the massive bloke with the slow lumbering attack. Ryse's idea of variation is to throw different combination of those enemies at the player, but the AI's attack is usually the same. Wait until the player's back is turned, and then leap at them.
And what great oracle told you this, General?
My father.
The developers break up the battles with turret sections, attacks on ranged opponents, and moments where Marius is called upon to lead troops in formations. Occasionally you'll also be given a choice between tactical deployments, which allows set pieces to play out a little differently. The combat is equally hit and miss in the multiplayer, but here there's the added dynamic of shifting battlefield goals. Players, either in tandem with a mate or solo, have to fend off waves of enemies that increase in strength every wave, but they're thrown curveballs like having to dismantle catapults, take out archers on raised platforms, or holding a square in the arena as enemies attack them. It doesn't improve the fighting, but the shifting dynamics give the online mode a rough and tumble appeal. There are in-game collectibles such as vistas, scrolls, and messages for the player to pick up, and every single enemy they kill earns them Valor points, which they can use to unlock parts of Marius's talent trees. They can also, if they wish, pay real-world money to buy these abilities, along with cosmetic baubles for their gladiator in the online shop. On speaking of cosmetics, this is one area in which Ryse boasts undeniable appeal: its presentation. The game has issues with its plot and gameplay, but visually speaking, Ryse is something close to awe-inspiring. The game's environments, the eerie British woods, the thundering Colosseum, the marbled streets of Rome, are especially captivating. The character models are of such quality that you can watch actors disappear into their performances. Specifically, the two blokes who play the Emperor's hateful sons are delightfully vile. Ryse isn't an unmissable launch title, but it's worth considering because of the sheer ambition, the bonkers story, and the staggering production values. One day you may come across Ryse in a cut-out bin for under a tenner. On that day, if you can get over a couple of rather large hurdles, you might end up having some real fun with it.